Hello, and welcome to our live broadcast on Cyber Risk Ready. Today, we are launching our first episode of Passion and Hard Work, where we speak with industry professionals to inspire and empower information security professionals by sharing actionable insights, personal experiences, and career growth strategies. During our show, we aim to foster a supportive community where passion and hard work meet guidance, helping individuals unlock their full potential and navigate industry challenges, achieving meaningful success in their cybersecurity careers. I'm your host, Tom Krause, and I'm thrilled to be joined by an incredible co host, Brian O'Hara. Brian brings a wealth of information and experience built on 25 years of firsthand cybersecurity expertise and a passion for mentoring the next generation of professionals. Together, we'll explore practical solutions, share inspiring stories, and connect you with tools and guidance to take your cybersecurity career to the next level. And that's not all. Throughout the series, we'll welcome amazing guests from across the cybersecurity industry to share their unique insights, hard earned lessons, and expert advice. These conversations will give you a diverse perspective and actionable takeaways that you can apply to your own journey. So let's dive in. Let me introduce my co host, Brian O'Hara. Brian has spent the past 30 years working in IT and cybersecurity as an IT director, a CISO, a virtual CISO for a number of large corporations and governmental organizations, and most recently as the National Strategic Engagement Advisor for the Federal Bureau of Investigation Indianapolis Division. In addition to his work in cybersecurity, he has also gained recognition as an expert in governance, risk, and compliance, with specialties in the healthcare, manufacturing, and financial services sector. He has volunteered his leadership expertise as a charter member and strategic advisor to Indiana Governor Holcomb's Executive Council on Cybersecurity, the state's effort at improving our critical infrastructure resiliency. Brian has earned a bachelor's degree in economics from Indiana University and a master's degree in counseling psychology from the University of North Dakota. Brian, welcome.
Thanks. I was like, come on, Tom, I'm going to sleep here. Let's wake people up. I'm just old as dirt. That's the only reason I have all that experience.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
It's all good. Let me bring up this additional slide here. So here's a little bit about my background. Brian,
you want me to go ahead and read that, Tom?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So Tom is a seasoned professional with over 30 years of diverse experience spanning leadership roles in information security, risk management, business development, and education. In these roles, he successfully led initiatives in developing programs to ensure compliance with industry standards such as NIST, ISO 27001, and HIPAA. Tom's experience is also extended to managing large-scale technology projects, fostering cross-functional collaboration, and mentoring teams to achieve operational excellence. Tom's expertise is supported by a strong academic foundation, holding a Master of Science in Management, a Bachelor of Science, graduating magna cum laude, and an associate's degree from Indiana Wesleyan University. Tom's also a personal friend. As you heard, he served under me as vice president of the InfraGard Indiana chapter, as well as being involved with ISACA activities over the number of years. I've known Tom going more than 10 years now, and would like to say thanks for inviting us to this. Thanks,
Sure.
Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, would you like to introduce our guest?
I will. This is Mr. Tom Rubendunst. Tom is also an old, longtime friend. Tom's a seasoned strategic advisor with extensive expertise in information security, governance, risk, and compliance, or GRC. With a proven ability to simplify complex challenges, Tom helps organizations align their business objectives with robust security strategies. He ensures businesses can optimize their operations while protecting critical assets by guiding clients through essential steps, identifying assets, assessing risks, managing risk responses, and developing cost-effective security roadmaps. With a background in managing a $30 million operation and leading teams of over 100 professionals, Tom combines operational management, business development, and regulatory compliance expertise to deliver measurable results with integrity and professionalism. Throughout his career, Tom has led significant projects across industries. At the state of Michigan, where I also worked with Tom shortly, he directed GRC efforts for the next generation digital infrastructure, coordinating cross-functional teams to produce system security plans and conduct enterprise architectural reviews. For Cimarex Energy, Tom developed a SharePoint-based GRC portal, centralizing policies and preparing for audits under the NIST cybersecurity framework. Tom also supported Rolls-Royce USA in documenting compliance with DoD, DFAS, NAVAIR contracts, aligning ISO 27001 and 2 policies with DFAS requirements under an active DoD secret clearance. Excuse me. With expertise in NYDFS, NIST, PCI DSS, HIPAA, FedRAMP, and SCADA, Tom has conducted over 75 risk assessments in healthcare, energy, finance, and government sectors. He has also led third-party risk audits and developed compliance programs, including a HIPAA strategy for Ford Motor Company's non-emergency medical transportation division. Known for a results-driven approach and fluency in regulatory standards, Tom empowers organizations to navigate risk, strengthen security programs, and achieve their strategic goals. Welcome, Tom. Another old friend.
Thanks for the intro, Brian, and glad to be joining you two today.
Well, great. Thanks for taking the time to visit with us, and we're excited to have you and someone with your caliber and background on our initial show. So thank you so much. Well, let's start off and just kind of talk a little bit about kind of what inspired your passion, Tom, for information security. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, many years ago when I worked for a company called Land Tech of America in Indianapolis, we had a sales meeting and we talked about Cisco routers and the iOS system that runs them, particularly about VPN and some of the security capabilities of the firewall that you could load up in that particular piece of equipment. And I thought, this is pretty cool stuff. So that's how I first got interested. And then I realized, being somebody who was working as a technical salesperson, helping some of the newer people go through some of the technical aspects that we needed to put together for proposals, that margins were shrinking in equipment and you had to sell more services. So I got interested in security through that Cisco sales meeting that we had, and I decided I'm going to join the local ISSA chapter and hang out there for a while and see what they talk about and what possibilities could I transition from someone who's depending my income on other salespeople to getting into delivery.
That's a pretty fascinating background. So there's a lot of stuff kind of packaged into that, it's interesting. So I've been in the Indianapolis market for about 30 years. And I remember that organization. So there's a lot of those things kind of floating around it. I'd actually started working in the technology space for a company called The Future Now back in the day. So you probably remember that or familiar with that name.
Sure.
How has your passions shaped your career?
Well, it's interesting because once I got into the ISSA, I was attending, and there was maybe 10 to 6 people attending every week. It was once a month. And I almost got to the point where I said, boy, this is the same 6 people. I don't really know where I'm going. And then something happened. They elected me treasurer. So I was committed for 2 more years. So I went to a couple of the people and I said, what can you guys do to help me get on my study track for CISSP? And they helped me. And once I got through the exam and passed, I looked at my email and I said, you know what? I'm on my way. So my passion began with just having a little bit of interest in the Cisco product, but realizing that delivery in security services was going to be a really good market.
Well, good. the whole idea of getting involved, I guess, in the information security space, kind of back then, and as we kind of tie into the general topic, which I think is really about how careers kind of morph, or they build themselves out over time. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like for you? You just started, maybe it sounds like, in the hardware space, and things kind of developed over the years. What was that path like for you?
It was a great path. We specifically worked in the Citrix environment. Lantech was a platinum reseller, which meant that they got great pricing. They had great engineers. And I made a habit of taking engineers out to lunch and learning about Active Directory over lunch, or learning about something I didn't know that much about. And that's how I got put into the technical sales role, because I had an appetite for that type of stuff. But once the ISSA chapter got me on track to do my study for CISSP, I bought, of course, the Sean Harris book, and I started to read it. Mm-hmm. And I actually got the audio, and I used the audio at every instance I could to just listen. If I was standing in line at the grocery store, I was doing something, I just kept listening and then reading. And in the back of the book, there were CDs that had a little self-test. And I just kept working my way up from 60% in one of the 10 domains at that time to 65% to 70%. And I just kept working until I got them all up to above 80%. And then I was ready to take my exam.
That's a pretty similar path. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. If I could for a second, excuse me. I wanted to mention too that Tom's passion resulted in giving back as well, because when he was working and I was working with him at the state of Michigan, he also put together CISSP training classes for students or up-and-comers that worked there at the state that were interested in getting their certification as well. I remember sitting through a couple of the lectures with Tom. So that was one of the other things I wanted to ask you, Tom, is what got you interested in giving back?
Well, I saw the need at the state of Michigan, where I would sit in meetings and I could tell a lot of the things I was talking about was a little bit foreign. And you have to think about a big organization like the state of Michigan. It's very fractionalized in skills. So I went to the director I was reporting to and I said, could we do a class? Everyone has a lunch hour, and let's take another hour out of the day and see if we can fill a classroom and go through the 10 domains and work through the book and see if we can get some CISSPs in your area. And he said, you'd be willing to do that? And I said, I'd love to do it. I'd love to help these guys. And I got immediately, results where some people went and took their test, and then they started to work for the division within the state of Michigan that was specific for the security services.
Right. Yeah, you did a great job with that. Appreciate that. I remember sitting through several of the lectures. Can you tell us about, or were there any specific people in your career that have sparked that interest and got you going and got you more interested? You mentioned ISSA. By the way, I want to make a point for anybody who's not listening. We all assume that we know what that means, that everybody knows what that means, but that's the Information Systems Security Association. Tom and I have both been members. Tom Krause, I'm not sure how long you've been, but we've both been members for 20 plus years. It's the world's largest information systems security association. They've got, I believe, 85 chapters in 18 countries, over 18,000 members worldwide. So it's a big organization of security professionals. When people at the White House or people in other large European governments look for security professionals, that's one of the organizations they go to. We have several friends from both Italy and England who have been tapped for national security positions, who were ISSA members prior to joining government efforts. So just wanted to point that out. Also, one other thing to mention, that those who may be somewhat younger than us don't remember who Sean was. Sean's book was the gold standard for well over a decade in CISSP training. She passed away back in the early aughts from breast cancer, and it was a great loss to the security community. And that book is still held in reverence by a lot of people, but we've moved on, and there are newer books now. But that was the gold standard in the day, wasn't it, Tom?
It was. There was everything you needed in that particular book set, and you had CDs where you could do the testing.
And she taught that all over the world. She loved giving back to people. That was pretty much her whole career. After her career in security, it was teaching. Yeah, and she was a great inspiration.
After listening to it probably at least 100 times, I knew I could sit there in the brown bag class that I put together at the state and recite everything that I had heard in the book and apply everything new that had happened since then.
Yeah, everything in there is still pertinent today. There's just been more added. Yeah, there it is. Sean Harris with the especially with the with cloud security. That was a whole piece that hadn't even evolved before Sean passed away.
But to answer your question, Brian, I found throughout all my career, if you look and you try to spot the people that might be able to help you learn something, that they will indeed help you. You just have to look for that. You have to be present to think, I should hang around with this guy. So I am extremely,
or gal.
Pardon me?
Or gal. Or gal.
Or gal.
This guy or gal. Yeah.
And ISSA started that off for me. And there were plenty of people in my career that I would take to lunch and I would learn. And I just tried to spot those people that could help me do something as far as better my education in certain areas so that I could just be more useful to whatever it is I was doing.
So in a nutshell, don't be afraid to ask.
Don't.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask. There's plenty of help around.
And I sat in those first ISSA meetings and I had 2 pages of notes of terms or 3-letter acronyms that I had no idea what they meant. So I just took them down and I went home and I researched them and I looked it up and I said, oh, they're just talking about something I know, but it was a 3-letter acronym that I didn't know had been placed that way.
Sure. Sounds similar to you too, Tom, your experiences coming up?
It is, yeah. So, just grab the Sean Harris book. Somebody said, hey, you need to go get a CISSP. And so, I grabbed that book and dove in, and it took a while to get through all of it because I wasn't really familiar with what those terms were and how it kind of all connected. But it was a road that I took. I'm blessed to have that the organization I was working for at the time provided me the pathway and the time to sit down there and figure that out. So that was really nice of them.
It's interesting. Excuse me. I received a call from an old workmate about 3 weeks ago, and the subject had changed from security to what certification should I get? There are so many of them. Back in the day when we first were cutting our teeth, it was the CISSP, and that was it. There wasn't any other. There were literally 0 other certifications in security. And it was, as we all know, it was designed initially as a project for the DoD. They wanted some type of certified personnel on staff on projects that involved high security. But today, we have certifications in audit, we have security certifications in cloud security, in network security, in Active Directory security. I mean, the field has exploded into all these subspecialties. And I think it's even more important today that when you're talking to individuals or listening to individuals, that you ask questions about what path should I take through security? Because in the early days, there was only one path forward. Today, there are multiple paths you can go through. Cloud security is just absolutely nuclear bomb gone off in terms of the number of paths that you can go. And I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are on that as well.
Tom? Well, Brian, back in October of 16, I took a boot camp from a guy named Buzz, and he was a great instructor. I went to Chicago, stayed in the hotel, and I went for the CCSP, the
Mhm.
Certified Cloud Security Professional certification. And I can remember calling my wife after the first day, and she said, "What does the class look like? What's going on?" And I said, "Well, I got to tell you, I'm the only 6'4" big-eared basketball player in the room. Everybody else looks different than me." And it made me realize that these were my people, and that everyone who had a passion to get into security was getting into it. So I took that class, and I took the exam immediately afterwards, because you know how retention is.
Yep.
And it definitely was an enhancement to my career, because a lot of people were struggling with, how do we go from what's in our facility today, our data center, and how are we going to start this hybrid model to put some of it in the cloud and some of it that we want to keep on premise.
Right.
So it
And
was
just
very
cloud,
valuable at the time.
just defining what it is and understanding what the concept was all about. Yeah, it was all new at that time.
Yeah, it was probably like 200 terms of vocabulary that you had to master to pass the test.
Right. If I recall, I remember when you took that exam, I think there were only like 135 certifications in the country of CCSPs.
Yeah, I was actually the 55th person to pass the test.
There you go. There
Wow.
you go. The 55th. I knew it was a short number. I couldn't remember what it was, but I knew it was a pretty small number. So yeah, it was still cutting edge, right on the edge of it. So
Yeah, as opposed to the CISSP, when I took that, my certification number was 417,117.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there were
way up there.
94,000 active people that had passed the
Yeah.
test. So it gave you a pretty good indication that 1 out of 4 passed, and 3 out of 4 might take it a second or third time before they pass. So I
Right.
felt fortunate I was able to pass both exams.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Yeah.
Tom?
I do agree. Any more individuals I think that are getting into the market, they have to have a good understanding of architectures, and even if their specialty is maybe not that, they do need to understand it. So the cloud security certification, we're studying and understanding how those pieces connect, especially in our multiple hybrid environments.
Right.
That's almost that's almost a basic thing anymore. So
And now it's not new. It's been around for a number of years now, but the individual I was talking about that contacted me a few weeks ago, we even talked about, his job has become managing security projects, not doing them, managing them. And there's a certification for that. The Certified Information Security Manager. ISACA has a certification for that. And so he initially was looking at doing the CISSP, and further questioning was like, well, what's that going to get you? What value does that bring to the table? What you need is a better understanding of how to manage multiple projects in your portfolio. There's a lot of project management involved in that. That's exactly what the CISM is about. Is the vast bulk of it is about project management. It has nothing to do with the individual hands-on security stuff. So he's now studying for his CISM. The same's true with oh shoot, what's the name of it? Tom, help me out. Either Tom. I can't think of the organization that does the Security Plus and the Network Plus certifications. From school, from colleges and universities. Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, they have a cloud security certification now as well. I don't know if they have a management security. Pardon me?
the A plus
CompTIA.
Yep, there you
Yeah,
go.
they're the ones that have the A plus. They started off with the A plus, the Network Plus, and now they've expanded into cloud. And there's actually a couple of levels of security and cloud certification. So it's really mushroomed into a whole business, partly because there are so many sub specialties today than there was when we were coming up. When we were coming up, it was, who's got the best firewall? Who's got the best antivirus? It's gone way, light years beyond that. And now with the introduction of AI, that's a whole nother field. There's going to start being certifications and all that kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I was talking to a friend that attended the was it the AWS World
Hmm.
going on right now, or possibly last week, and it's all about AI.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that has an
Hmm.
influence on the market. And
Yeah, I mean, think about for a minute, you could ask an AI engine how to create a security policy for handling your hybrid environment based on AWS. Spits all that stuff right out at you because it knows everything there is to know about AWS. That stuff's all searchable. Therefore, it's fair game to be able to spit stuff out about. So anyway, I just thought I'd go on. I wanted to talk about the expansion in certifications because they're so closely tied to success in the field of cybersecurity. At some time, at some point, you're going to be asked in your career, "What are your certifications?" That question's going to come up. Tom, you had a question about niches. Go ahead, Rubendunst.
Yeah, I saw the 10 domains of the CISSP as being so broad, so many different
Mm-hmm.
areas you could go into. And as
Mm-hmm.
I was in my first 2 years of doing delivery, I decided, why don't I develop a strategy to get into a niche? So my particular thought process was move towards governance, risk, and compliance and apply everything I know about cybersecurity and security principles. And what I found was there weren't a lot of people who wanted to do governance, risk, and compliance. In fact, very few.
You
So,
get yelled at a lot.
and you guys know this as being auditors. I mean, it doesn't take you 10 minutes to be in an audit to know what kind of audit you're in.
Right.
So, so it's all about documentation and it's pretty boring. But I found that it was a great niche for me, not because I'm great with English, but I'm really good with details. And I was able to develop that niche that kept me busy for the rest of my career. I still do two things exclusively. I work on HIPAA risk assessments for clients, and I work on Canadian privacy assessments, which are called PAPITA. And that alone just keeps me as busy as I want to be. So if you develop a niche, you're always going to have a market. And if you pick up the certifications within those niches, you're always going to be the last guy that they look at when they're doing staff reductions because you've got the certs. They got to keep you.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, very interesting observation for sure.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was going to ask Tom. As far as skills go, maybe not necessarily certifications, but skills. What's the one skill that I think that you think information security professionals should develop and build? What is that one thing?
Well, the one emphasis, as I can recall, when my CISSP instructor told us how to work with the test was, you're going to have two answers that aren't correct. You're going to have two that are similar. Pick the answer that talks about how to manage the situation, not how to actually solve the problem. So to answer your question, I think it's important to understand the process of managing programs that people need to put in place because they commonly just have had no one in their organization that knows the subject matter, and they have had nobody in their organization that would know how to manage the subject matter. So I think learning how to manage all different types of risk situations is critical to you being very valuable to your clients.
That's again where the CISM comes in, Tom. It's all about managing not just projects, but about managing risk. The C risk that the risk management certification that ISACA offers blends across into the CISM. There's a whole lot of the contents that's identical because it really is. You're absolutely right. It's really about managing the processes. So I'm glad you bring that point up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I found over the course of time was I would be given a project because I would work for handlers that would put me on site with clients. And I was expected to be the PM and the subject matter expert. And there really were very few times that a PM was ever assigned to me. So that particular skill, how are you going to get a project done if you don't have project management skills?
Right. And in addition to that, a project manager can't manage stuff they don't understand. At least they can't do it very well.
Yeah, because it takes an enormous amount of time to bring a PM up to speed on
Right.
a lot of the technical topics that come up in these projects.
And especially if they don't care, that's not their wheelhouse. Yeah, if their wheelhouse is just project management. Right. Right. Exactly. They don't have that. They don't have one foot in each garden, if you will.
Yeah. So for those individuals, Tom, that are and Brian as well, for those individuals that are coming up through the technical ranks, right, and they're into firewalls or whatever the stuff is, what I think I'm hearing you say is that getting to the point where you can actually manage that process, one or multiple processes versus just responding to the technology outputs. That's really where folks that are coming from that technical space, maybe they should be really trying to focus on growth in that particular way.
Well, there's two different things that happen here, Tom. You have to have the ability to talk to that gentleman or that gal, as Brian said earlier, whoever's in the corner office that's at that C level. You have to know what they're talking about, what they're thinking about, what the CEO's thinking, the CIO, the CFO. But at the same time, to get the respect of the people you're working with on projects that are technical, they're going to test you and they're going to make sure that you know what you're talking about as well. Now, you don't have to know if you flip the switch this way or that way. You just generally have to know that the switch has to be flipped one way or the other to get one result or the other.
Okay. Brian, did you have something you wanted to add on that?
I can't remember what it was. There was, but I blanked it out. Okay. Sorry.
Tom, what about the one tool, right, that you could recommend to folks that maybe they should understand or get a grip on? What is that one thing from a tool standpoint that you feel is benefit for people to know?
Sure. So two different layers here. When I was studying to go through the CISSP, I loaded this little app called Quizlet on my phone, and I used that as a way to go through 20 questions while I had idle time. So Quizlet is a great mobile app that you can learn anything. There's all kinds of topics. But when I think about tool sets that I've had to become proficient at, Excel, Word, Teams. Beyond that, I would say the only other specialty tool is that I developed my own HIPAA risk assessment set of tools where I have questions. I have a deliverable report that I use the results of the questions. And sometimes you have to build your own tools so that you can do something that really, they're just not out there.
The one thing I'd throw in, Tom, to that is, and Rubendunst will reflect this for me. So I'm a joiner, always have been. And I think one of the most valuable things you can do is get involved in your professional organizations. Get involved in ISSA, get involved in ISACA, whatever it is you happen to find your interest in. Find a chapter close by you. They're in most major cities. You shouldn't have any trouble finding one. The Fort Wayne chapter, by the way, Tom, is getting ready to celebrate its 20th anniversary, I'm sorry. This next year, 2005 is when we were officially incorporated. Find a local organization and get involved, because there you're going to meet your peers. You're going to meet the people you're going to be working with. People move from job to job in this industry. That's pretty common. And these are the people that you're going to run into again and again and again. Find your mentors. Listen to what they say at their luncheons. Just like Tom said, take notes, listen really well, but get involved in those organizations. I think it's absolute paramount importance, because they're the ones on the cutting edge. They'll tell you, nah, don't take that exam. That's a waste of time or a waste of money, or this is the exam you should be taking, or here's the area you should be focusing on, because you'll see 2 or 3 presentations during the course of a year on that particular subject. I know back in the day when Tom and I were I was in Indianapolis enough in those days that I could attend the local ISSA meeting, and Jeff Forsman, who's a expert on PCI DSS, would give a couple of presentations a year on PCI DSS because that was a big deal back then. PCI DSS was really fully coming onto its own about 2010, and if you wanted to know and you wanted to get involved in PCI DSS, Jeff Forsman was the guy to know. There's no question about it. That guy knew it cold, flat, inside and out. He did trainings all over the world on it. Today it's cloud. Next it's AI. It's starting to become AI already. I don't know where it's going to be when this next round of young professionals is coming up. But I know that if you get involved with those organizations and pay attention and listen, you'll find out where it's going before it gets there. They're the ones that are going to be telling you, here's the part of AI that you need to pay attention to. Not just everybody's all up about AI. It's really great. Yeah, cool. It does all this super stuff. But how does that fit into the world of cybersecurity? How does that fit into the world of cloud? And finding those subspecialties, because there's going to be new subspecialties come along every day.
Right.
That's my 2 cents. Get involved.
Yeah, I reinforce that, Brian, because I work with Julie Bates, Bob Sipes,
Yep.
Terry Jennings in the ISSA Indianapolis branch chapter, and we built that chapter from 6 people to over 100.
Yeah, I remember it was almost dead. It was right on the verge of death when you started. You guys did a great job.
But anytime you needed somebody who you knew had this finger, this tentacle into a specialty, you could always count on them. And as well as when I was working with Rolls-Royce, I knew that we were hiring other CISSPs. And one gentleman attended the meeting and I said, why don't you give me a call tomorrow? I'd like to give you a job lead. And it wasn't up to me to hire him, but my supervisor hired him. And those types of organizations for networking opportunities are incredible.
Yeah.
You can't put a dollar number on that.
Nope. And you won't get them anywhere else.
Yep. No, that's good stuff. Thanks for that. And I will put a link to several of the top organizations in the show notes for this, so people that are watching it can click on those links and join those.
Good idea.
Tom, share some insights, and Brian, share some insights about balancing the guidance that you give to junior level staff, and what that looks like, from a productivity standpoint. Where do you kind of draw that line, to allowing them to be free to kind of figure stuff out, and provide enough direction to to make sure they don't get too far off track.
So if I can throw in first, Tom, when I was teaching at Indiana Tech, when I was a program chair at Indiana Tech, I actually gave my students extra credit for bringing me their signed name on an ISSA meeting attendance slip. So I encourage them always to get involved in those kinds of things. It didn't matter to me. I actually took time out of my classwork because the meetings would start at 6 o'clock and our class didn't end until 6:45. So I not only let them out 45 minutes early, I gave them an extra 10 points towards their final grade if they brought me a picture of their signed attendance at the meetings. That encourages them to get involved. I'd like to see employers do a lot of the same stuff. Find some way to compensate your employees for making that extra effort after hours to go to meetings. But I'm the exception. I'm not the rule. Most companies are not going to go, oh, you went to ISSA meeting last night. Cool, we'll give you an extra hour for lunch today. That doesn't happen. I wish it did. I really wish it did, but it just doesn't happen. So all I can say is do things like Tom did. Offer a training class during a lunch hour. Get your supervisors to get behind you and get involved in those kinds of things. Find ways to support the staff and help them move along, because most of the time they've earned it. Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. I think Brian O'Hara has had far more opportunities to get young people involved. And I can remember attending a Fort Wayne meeting, and I saw exactly that. It's just getting people excited. I think, Brian, you had a team that went and they competed for some type of capture the flag type activity. And they were so jazzed up. They were just having fun doing this and talking about it. And they were proud of themselves.
Great. That's good insight, and especially for, those folks that are just, trying to figure out how to break into the information security space, and maybe they're working in the technical field somewhere, but not close to security. I think it's provides them some good instruction.
Yeah, if your company doesn't support that, find somebody that does. I mean, you can keep your job there, but there are other companies that support their employees for doing those kinds of things. And so, yeah, just like it was the same as asking questions, look around. It's there. You just have to look for it.
And Tom, there's one other thing that I think is noteworthy here. If you're interested, you don't have to be a network administrator to become somebody that gets involved in different types of security, governance, risk, or compliance. It's not necessary. I didn't come through that path. I never learned DOS. I never have configured anything more than a home router. So my work has always been strategy. But you need people all throughout that spectrum that know technical details down to the nubblies. And then you need people who understand strategy. What comes first? Where do we start? What's next? How do we hire? Most of the risk assessments I do for clients, I'm working with somebody that's junior. And I always write into the risk assessment letter to the CEO, you should invest in X and put him through a boot camp or a Network Plus class or whatever it takes. And I've never seen a CEO not take that advice because they understand it's such a minimal investment.
Right.
Well, thanks for sharing that. We are kind of at time. Tom, is there any final thoughts that you want to share with folks?
No, if you've got an interest, get involved. Just as we've spoken throughout the course of the podcast, you'll find a way.
Okay, great. Brian?
Ditto.
Okay. Okay, great.
Ditto.
All right. Well, hey, so that's kind of wrapping up our first episode. Thanks for tuning in on Passion and Hard Work. We're working to build our cybersecurity community and provide inspiration and tools and resources to help people grow. So, if you got value out of this show, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next show. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to Passion and Hard Work on Cyber Risk Ready, where we work to empower information security professionals by sharing actionable insights, personal experiences, and career growth strategies. If you found today's insights valuable, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have questions about cybersecurity career growth strategy, please ask them in the questions below, and we'll work to get them all answered on the show. Your journey in cybersecurity starts with curiosity and ends with impact. So stay inspired, keep learning, and keep sharing. And we'll see you in the next video.